Jon Lovald served in the United States Army for 25 years. He retired from the military as a lieutenant colonel in 2015. Currently, he is the Chief Operating Officer of Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, MACV. His awards and decorations include the Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, and the Meritorious Service Medal. Jon began his military career in 1988 when he enlisted in the United States Army as a communications specialist. He received his commission from St. Cloud State University, Army Reserve Officers Training Corps in May of 1998. He has served in numerous staff positions throughout his career and commanded at the battalion level. He oversees deployments including tours in Korea, Kosovo, and Iraq. Upon retiring from the military, he joined the Excelsior Fire Department as a volunteer firefighter and is active in the American Legion and the VFW. Jon is married to Nicole, who owns Spirit of the Lake Yoga and Wellness in Excelsior, Minnesota. They live in Excelsior with their son Jackson and daughter Sophie, who both attend elementary school at Minnewaska Elementary. Colonel, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks, Terry. I've heard other leaders say this many times, and now I realize why they say it. Had I known he was going to read all of that, I would have given him a lot less. I'm Jon Lovald from Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, and for those of you who don't know about us, I'm here today to give you an overview on what it is we're doing to help end homelessness for Minnesota veterans. A few of the things that we're going to cover today, we would like MACV to actually be a household name like Wounded Warrior Project, but we know that that's not going to happen unless we keep getting in front of people like we got the opportunity to do today, so thank you very much. The mission of MACV, period, is to end veteran homelessness in Minnesota. And I can tell you that today we're lucky in the sense that the state of Minnesota is one of few states that has an agreement amongst all the different organizations that deal with homelessness that when we identify a veteran who is homeless, we get their name added to a registry. And therefore, any of the different agencies, whether it's the VA ourselves, Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, anybody that comes in contact with a homeless veteran, makes sure their name is placed on the list. That helps us then solve the problem. The problem today is about 190-something veterans, and that number, I'm proud to say that in the last year it went from 250 down to 190. We were stagnant at 250 for quite a period of time, and now it seems like we're getting some more momentum. We do that by providing assistance to veterans who are positively motivated and looking to help their situation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. The company, the genesis of the company was a VFW, 3 veterans sitting around found out that there were some homeless veterans in town. And they said, you know what, we could do better than that. We can do something. They raised the money, they bought a house, and then they put 3 veterans in that 3-bedroom house. We continue to use that as one of our tools, one of our models to assist veterans yet today. So we've been around since 1990. We are a statewide organization. These are the 3 regions that we have. We have 38 employees that cover all these counties. As you can imagine, the highest density of our homeless population is in the metro because most people will gravitate towards a place where they can find the most services. So our staffs are smaller in the south and the northern regions. However, they've got the space that they have to cover. So they're spending a lot of time on the road working with county veteran service officers. Our metro area includes all the way up into the St. Cloud space. Again, the northern region, they're headquartered out of Duluth, but they cover all that state. And there's we have some employees who are remote amongst the more western counties. And in the southern, our team is located in Mankato, specifically in an office, and then we have another individual in Rochester. One of the first questions we usually get is, how do you do this? Where's your funding come from? Especially when you say you're a 501c3. Where's your funding come from? A large portion of our funding is federal dollars called SSVF, and that's Supportive Services for Veteran Families. That, the next largest chunk of money that we're funded through is through the state, the Minnesota Department of Veteran Affairs. Those are grants, and with those grants come very stringent guidelines on who we are allowed to assist with that money. And they have to do it a specific way because they need to be able to track it. So we have to use the federal guideline of a veteran, definition of a veteran. We have to use the federal guideline of the definition of homeless. And between different organizations and even different levels, sometimes those are different, have a different meaning. But we're able to fill the gaps through our other donations and foundations that give us money. So we are able to assist a veteran who might not be otherwise considered a federal veteran. He might be, he or she might be a Minnesota National Guard member that never deployed. They have an honorable discharge, but not for having the right form of DD-214, they're not considered a veteran. And some statistics from last year, we assisted over 5,000 veterans. About 1,500 of those were direct assistance, us writing a check to a landlord, writing a check to a mortgage company, assisting with a car repair, anything that is the crisis that led them to almost becoming homeless or being homeless. Those are the things where we're able to provide direct assistance. We also, if anybody here has ever participated in a stand down, we have a stand down that had previously been taking place at the air base over at the Boy Scout camp. Through those events, we assisted over 1,800 veterans who came to stand down, and then we also provided about 1,800 veterans with legal assistance. As you can see, some of these other things, one of the dynamics that's been changing with our clients is we're assisting more and more veterans with families. And so homelessness, a lot of people think of the person underneath the bridge or living in their car. Well, you can imagine when a van showed up at our headquarters and it was a Marine veteran with his 5 kids and spouse living out of their van for the last few weeks. And you know, it took that long before they actually came and asked for some assistance. A lot of people will ask, well, what's the cause? You know, what's causing the veterans to get into this state of crisis, whether it's almost on the verge of homelessness or being homeless? You know, right there you can see 27%, it's mental illness a lot of times, and ability to cope with some of the things that are going on in their lives. Chemical dependency, PTSD. I think the misnomer is that a lot of people believe it's PTSD specifically, but really what it'll end up being is a combination of any one of the two of these that will put somebody into that state. The age groups that we are assisting, a lot of people want to know, how many of these veterans that we're assisting are coming out of Iraq and Afghanistan, out of the current wars. Well, predominantly we're still serving a lot of Vietnam veterans in this space, but that demographic will continue to change as we are still fighting in conflicts in Afghanistan with people in Iraq and any other area that you can turn on the news today and see where we're sending our forces. So this demographic that will continue to move down. As I previously mentioned, 19% is the Vietnam War. Then we have 27% is since 9/11. The peacetime is really everything between what they're considering between Vietnam and 1991, when the first Gulf War was. And as you can see, 44% single, but the married population continues to grow. How are we assisting them, or where are they at when we find them? As you can see, a smaller number of them are in the shelters or on the streets actually, or in some type of transitional situation. A lot of the people that we are assisting are in a permanent housing solution, but they're at crisis of losing it. So what we've been doing at MACV is moving further to the left as we can of homelessness, because it's a lot harder to place a veteran after they've become homeless, after they've lost their job, after whatever it was that was keeping them in their home is gone. Now we have to replace 3 or 4 different things as opposed to just assisting them with the one thing that they need to deal with today. How do we do that? As I mentioned, we provide direct financial assistance in some of those different areas where we can actually help somebody with their mortgage, a rent, a a down payment, a damage deposit. We also have our own homes that I previously mentioned. There's 7 of our MACV houses actually exist in the southern metro, South Minneapolis, 1 in Richfield. But we have a dozen homes statewide. So we provide what's called structured independent living in those homes. And the model previously on those houses had been if we had a 4-bedroom house, we'd find 4 veterans and we'd place them in the house. And then was the female population, veteran population, of course, is growing the fastest right now. So now we had to convert a house into a female veteran house, and we put 2, 3 female veterans in there. Prior to last year, we didn't have one house that was set aside specifically for families. I'm happy to say that today, through some relationships with the Builders Association of the Twin Cities and Lennar, we had a new 5-bedroom house built for us, and we placed a 8-person family into that house, and we converted one of our other smaller houses into a small family house as well. So we keep trying to add more tools into our toolkit to see what it is we can do. And then we have permanent supportive housing as well, and that's for some of our veterans. We have housing in Rochester and Duluth where they're actually in there until they decide to move out or something changes in their life that they no longer want to be inside that facility. MACV does not duplicate services, so people will ask about mental health. We don't have counselors specifically on staff. We don't. We have case managers. The case managers help identify whatever is the root cause of the individual's crisis, whether that's chemical dependency or traumatic brain, whichever one of those things it is, then we hand them to that source. So a lot of times it could be the VA that's going to help us fill that gap for that individual, or it might be another agency like Lutheran Social Services, who does a lot of budget help, things like that. So we don't specifically provide that. We reach out to our partners for that. But we do specialize in employment services and legal services. One of the many boundaries that a veteran will have is some things that have occurred on their record. So once you become homeless and you start living out of your car and you start running out of places to actually use a restroom, you start finding yourself getting arrested for things that are pretty petty offenses. We're able to assist with those through our veteran services team, and then again through case management. The majority of all of our employees are case managers at MACV. I mentioned before the SIL housing, 12 houses throughout the state. Again, 7 of them are not far from here in South Metro. Duluth Veteran Place. Now, if you see here, there's 2 buildings right next to each other. The nice thing about the Duluth office is they actually office in the lower portion of that left building, and then they have some rooms up above it. And then the building to the right is that second picture to the right where they have 17 residents as well. So they're all nice and close to each other. In the metro, it's a little bit trickier because we got to move around and get to all the different houses and check in on everybody. And then I also mentioned the townhomes that we have in Mankato. This has 11 townhomes, and these are permanent supportive for our disabled veterans specifically, and they are in Mankato. I also mentioned the Batsy House. It's great to bring this up again, though, because due to that relationship and how well that went, we're breaking ground on the 26th of this month in Maplewood to build a 5-bedroom, all-female home to help try to end female veteran homelessness specifically in 2018. Linden Grove is an example of one of our partnerships with the VA. So as I said, we don't duplicate services, but we do actually exist on the VA campus in both the Metro and in St. Cloud. We don't own the building, but we case manage the residents who are in there. And again, that's through legal services and employment services, whatever it is, to help them move to stability. Interesting story about Linden Grove. Somebody said there's not a homeless veteran problem in St. Cloud. It has 37 units. They said if we don't fill them, we're going to just go to the next low-income group and offer these units to them. They filled it within a month and had a waiting list, and the waiting list is longer than the actual number of rooms there. So when the veterans know that there is an option, then they'll come forward and ask for some help. Our employment, we work inside the Workforce Center and try to connect all the different employers who want to hire veterans. And I'm happy to say that there's not a day that goes by that I don't get to talk to somebody that says, hey, we've got a position, we'd love to hire a veteran, can you connect me to one of your veterans? We use our employment workforce center and job club to try to then make those connections. Obviously, the job that person might have isn't going to be just right for the person that we have, but our specialized case manager kind of figures out what are those skill sets and then connects them to those people. So the good news is there's plenty of people who are looking to hire veterans. Our vet law team, again, they assist our veterans with numerous different cases that they might have. When we have a stand-down event, they'll actually bring in judges, and they're authorized to conduct court at our stand-down activities. So they will get different moving offenses and things adjudicated that day when they show up. That relationship it's a small team, it's 4 people, but they're able to provide all these services just through all the interaction from all the different attorneys and law firms that want to do work with veterans. So we'll have vet law clinics in numerous towns throughout the state, but in each one of those towns, it's those local lawyers that then show up and donate their time to make it happen. And I said before, the stand down. So the stand down, for those of you who do have some familiarity with Vietnam, the days back when we were fighting in that conflict, stand down was created as an opportunity to take the soldiers off the front line and give them a few days to get back, reset, actually get a bath, have a warm meal, and have a couple of days without feeling like somebody was shooting you and your life was on the line. The stand down, modern model for the stand down is to bring veterans to a location where everybody who provides a service shows up at the same time, and they basically can one-stop shop as they move from table to table to get the things that they need. If they don't need the help from this individual, then they just move on to the next table. But we're able to bring together all of our partners at one particular time and location, and then veterans can get assistance that day. They're very well attended by the veteran community and volunteers for them. We're never at a loss for putting people to work to assist us with the stand downs. How people can help through the businesses and donors. One of the things that we get quite often is a company, and it'll have a veteran group or even just a desire for community service day. They'll call and say, how do we help? So trying to harness that activity, we do get a lot of different organizations that'll say, we're looking for a project, what can we do to assist? And we will try to then match their skill sets with something that they can do and then be interacting with veterans at the same time. In our houses, sometimes that looks like a spring or a fall cleanup or coming and doing a barbecue with a group of veterans. One of the things that we're doing this year, proud to say, is the SIL houses. We're taking an Adopt a House, the Adopt a Highway program, and creating Adopt a House. So what we're looking for is organizations that are willing to put together the time to come and do a spring and a fall cleanup. Organizations that, if financially they can assist, we let them know what the bare minimum standard is to keep the power on, the gas, and just to keep that house running, and they could assist in that way as well if they're able to do that. So we do get individual donors as well. Some of you may have had the opportunity to see us. We were on WCCO over the November-December timeframe called Home for the Holidays. If you haven't seen it, it's out on Facebook and YouTube. But we were able to do a telethon, which was the first one we'd ever done, but it was very highly successful, and we were able to take the money from the telethon and apply that straight to this next house that we're building with Batsy. Agency partners, this is, again, relationships with other different organizations. If it's a construction company, maybe it's something that they're willing to provide for our houses. If it's the legal services, it's a law firm. We get a lot of assistance from our agency partners, but one of the things that we get that's most critical is just the referrals. Somebody who knows or comes in contact with a veteran who needs assistance, and then them being referred to us, because they know about MACV. Without our partners, we wouldn't reach the clients that we're getting right now, because we don't advertise specifically, and there's only 38 of us. But through your interaction, out in your communities, in whatever your roles are, you're meeting veterans, and you kind of know if they're in a place where they might need some assistance, and those referrals to our organization is how we can continue to help them. I went through that pretty fast. I don't know if I went through it so fast I didn't afford any time to ask anybody to ask a question, but I've left enough time for questions. If I'm looking, yes, I left at least 4 minutes for questions. I will go back to a slide and show it to you. There's handouts on your tables. I didn't print enough for everybody to have one, but a lot of the information is in the handout. Yes, please.
Is your group the one that's sponsoring the golf event for us in the military?
Yes,
Can you repeat?
Yep. So the question was there's a Salute to Service Women golf tournament that we host June 26th, and that's at Prestwick Golf Course. So that's another way that we raise money is through that event, and partnerships with Tee It Up for the Troops. They have also assisted us through some of the other golf tournaments as well, but specifically the Salute to Service Women Golf Classic. You can find that, and that is June 26th, yes.
Do you want to mention that women veterans can go to the dinner for free?
I would love to mention that women veterans can go to the dinner for... Yeah, when you register, there's different things that you would click on, but they very specifically set the golf tournament up for women veterans, and they were very generous and opened it up for anybody who wanted to golf, available to golf. But last year was the first year they filled up the entire tournament, all the different spots. So I expect that we'll probably see the same kind of success again this year. They raised about $30-something thousand, and the money from that golf tournament actually bought the furnishings for the house that we got from Batsy. Yes, sir.
More of a comment. I'll jump in on it. Homelessness in this country wasn't really recognized, in my opinion, as a national problem until around 1987, when the Stuart B. McKinney Homeless Assistance Act was signed. Even with that, nothing really happened because of funding until 2010, when the first federal strategic program addressing homelessness was signed in, was supported by President Obama. Since 2010 to date, work like the Colonel and others have been doing has reduced homelessness in this country by about 50%.
50% is correct.
50%.
Military homelessness, yeah. So when the funding became available in 2010, and we were really able to start getting after this issue, the homeless registry was over 500 names, and they reduced it down to 250, and we kind of plateaued there for a little while. But they reduced it in 50% alone in Minnesota, just with that funding that was made available. That's the SSVF grant that I mentioned earlier.
The point being that we don't want to see a reduction in the federal financial support for this program if we are truly going to end homelessness for veterans and for all people. Opinion.
Yes, sir.
Did I hear right that there are 234 homeless people, homeless veteran people, or did I hear it wrong?
The current number is we're at 193, I believe, today. Yep, and about 20 of those are female veterans, and I think 40 names on the list are families. So, you know, while we did gain a lot of momentum last year and brought the number down from over 250, as you continue to work your way into the list, they're going to become harder and harder to house.
And 37 people are working to work on that problem?
From MACV, 37 people are. We partner with other agencies, though. I can't say better things about some of the St. Stephen's who we partner with. They have a street team that is literally out there walking around where the homeless population will be, and finding and asking the questions if they're veterans. So we work with them very closely. Catholic Charities very closely. The VA, I mean, I can't tell you, we've had phone calls where somebody is in for their VA appointment, and the counselor or the doctor will basically, through discovery, find out they're living out of their car.
And 37 are volunteers?
We're not volunteers. MACV has 37 paid employees that are working on this.
So just to make clear, it seems like the caseworkers stay in touch with all the 250. It's not just
okay, we check this one off and leave it be, right? So
Correct. Once, yeah, to case manage them, it's not, rarely is it as easy as a solution, and then we won't have to re-engage that individual again. But the model is different for each person.
Yes.
I'm assuming you know that the Whole Life Foundation is directing a lot of dollars to homelessness. You're on it, right?
Yes, and I believe I've got
It's something on my calendar this week.
with what foundation?
the Polad Foundation.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I believe on Thursday.
Is there any other questions? If not, thank you, John. This was really
Thank you.